Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 21 of an Italian knitting podcast. My name is Francesca. I am an Italian knitter. I am a software engineer. I work from home. I live in Italy in the northeast with my husband, my daughter and our cat. And actually today a good amount of these family members that I mentioned are out of the house. My husband is abroad for work for the week. And my daughter is at my parents' house for a few hours, which gives me the opportunity to record this podcast with a little bit more like relaxation and calm and chill. So today for you, I have a pattern release, fancy giveaway, which is quite exciting, and the usual spiel of finished objects, works in progress and acquisitions, which is kind of typical of this knitting podcast and probably of all knitting podcasts across the globe, which is lovely. Okay, so for the pattern release, I made croissants. So the pattern that I released today is my first and only so far, possibly last. I named this pattern an Italian summer scarf. And it is a summer scarf, a spring summer scarf, I would call it. It has eyelets throughout. It has eyelets and garter stitch, which if you know me, you know it's my favorite thing in the world. And it's constructed from one tip, and then you increase until you used half of your yarn, or maybe slightly less than half of your yarn. And then from there, you start decreasing towards the other tip. And then you're done. The yarn that I used for this first sample is my one and only Sammetgarnline, which is, as you know, my favorite summer yarn. There's truly nothing that compares to this for me. It is a worsted weight yarn, maybe like heavy DK to worsted weight yarn, which gives you like a lightweight enough fabric that you can wear it during the summer most times, but is thick enough that you're not working with like a lace weight or fingering weight yarn. Approved, I made garments like the Ingrid Summer sweater by Gregoria Fibers that I'm wearing. I made shirts and I now made scarves. You can find this pattern if you want it. You don't have to actually go and look it up, but if you want this pattern, it's a free pattern and you can find it on Ravelry. The pattern is available in both English and Italian. I don't know any other languages, otherwise I would have made it available in more languages. It's a free pattern. If you don't like to use Ravelry for some reason, you can email me. You'll find my email in the description box, and you can ask me for the pattern and I'll gladly send it to you over email. The pattern is quite adjustable in size and yarn weight and the like. Also because it's not a garment, right? Like it doesn't have to fit your measurement perfectly. So you can substitute the yarn for non-worsted or DK yarn and do something else. For example, this one is in 2 strands of kind of lace weight yarn held together, which I'm assuming would produce a fingering weight yarn. This is in Knitting for Olive compatible cashmere, 2 strands held double. And it's a little bit shorter, and the one that actually doubles as my only finished object for today is actually in a cotton yarn. And one thing that I like about this pattern is that to know where you need to work your eyelet row, there's no need for you to actually keep track of how many rows you've worked so far. You can actually count the garter bump rows that you worked since your last eyelet row, and when you have a specific amount, then you can start working your eyelet row. I try to explain this in the pattern, so if you actually download it and read through it and try to make the scarf, let me know if I was clear enough in my pattern writing. And as a disclaimer, actually I should say that this pattern didn't go through test knitting. It didn't go through the hands of a tech editor. This is just me writing down what I've done to knit these 3 scarves. And I try to make it as clear as possible, but you can always reach out to me if there's something that's not clear, and I'll be happy to explain that better if I can. And the story behind me writing this pattern is because I was supposed to teach a workshop at a knitting event, which was supposed to happen this weekend in Bologna. Bologna is the closest big city near me. And so I wanted to have a pattern that I could talk through and cast on together during the workshop with the people who would participate in person. And the event was unfortunately rescheduled for, I think, after the summer. And that's due to very bad weather and heavy rains happening throughout the week, especially in the north of Italy. And especially the areas in the countryside are flooded, and lots of people have had water inside their house, and so it wasn't feasible to still have the event and disregard the situation. And so the knitting event, the yarn festival, yarn crawl is postponed, I think, for after the summer. And so hopefully there'll still be a chance for me to host the workshop and for people to participate. But yeah, the pattern was meant to be kind of shared in person at that event. I still chose to publish it today online for people. I kind of actually hope that the people who were meant to come in person to the workshop can maybe still work on this little pattern. So for the workshop that was supposed to take place, one of the things that was gonna be in the room for people joining the workshop was a little kit with 2 balls of Sandnesgarn line that we could use to cast on the scarf together and knit through, I'm not sure how many repeats we would have been able to do together, but like a few repeats, and then people would continue their scarves at home. And so that little kit with the 2 balls of Sandnesgarn line gave me the idea for a giveaway that I want to host. So the giveaway is meant to celebrate my first year of having a knitting podcast, which I thoroughly enjoyed, or I thoroughly enjoy still to present days. And also the fact that this channel now has more than 5,000 subscribers, which is more than, I don't know, the number of people that I've probably have ever met in my life. I don't think I even know 500 people, so mind-blowing. And so for the giveaway, I decided to prepare 5 little kits that you can use to make an Italian summer scarf if you want to. But if you don't care about having a little summer scarf, you can use the yarn to do anything else that you like. I will not hold you accountable to make this exact scarf, no worries. Oh, there's some paper. Can you see anything? Do you see anything? Ooh. So I've placed an order from one of my favorite online yarn stores, and I've ordered 5 little kits. I'm calling them kits, but they're just like 2 balls of Sandnesgarn line each. So 5 people will win something like this. And if you don't like having a little summer scarf with this quantity of yarn, you could use this if you wanted for like stripes on your sweater or on a summer tee, or you can make whatever you'd like with it, honestly. Okay, cool. So I'll show you the colors. So I'll show you the colors that I picked. This is a lovely dusty blue. Then I picked a pretty classic cream color, which is actually the one that you see me wearing. A dusty green. I've made my Soho top with this color. This I've never used before, but I really liked when I saw it on the website. And last but not least, boom, the jelly green. Jolly green? Jelly green. I mean, it's a very jolly color as well, so that could be a name as well. I've never used this one before. I don't know if I would enjoy like an entire garment with this vibrant green. I've seen actually a few of them on Ravelry scrolling through project pages, and they looked very cool, but I don't know if I would enjoy an entire garment. but I thought that for like a scarf, it could be like a lovely pop of color. So I hope that one of you will enjoy this color for a little accessory or for stripes on a sweater or shirt. So if you comment down below in this video, you're automatically entered in this giveaway. If you want to, you can also maybe give me a little preference of the color that you'd like to receive, so that if you're picked, I'll try to match you with that specific color. Can I hold them all together to give you an overview? Oh man, cool. It's a lovely yarn bouquet, huh? I'm excited for 5 of you to get your hands on this yarn. If you've not tried it before, I hope you'll end up loving it. Or if you've tried it before, I hope you will enjoy knitting with some more of it. And I'll announce the winners in my next episode in a few weeks. Cool, I'm excited. Both for the little pattern, little free pattern, and for the giveaway. Let's dive into finished objects, which is actually finished object singular, and you've seen it before. So we don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but I wanted to kind of have it shine for a little bit. This is my third an Italian summer scarf, and it's knitted up with a yarn held double, and it's 100% cotton, and it's called Tahiti from a brand that I cannot pronounce, and I don't want to pronounce, let's say. I've purchased this yarn to make a camisole with the yarn held single, and I've tried a couple times actually, to cast on a camisole with this yarn. I've tried one from Petite Knit. I've also tried one of the camisole number something from My Favorite Things Knitwear, and the yarn didn't have that kind of battery or like luscious feel that I look for in a yarn when I have to knit an entire camisole in fingered weight yarn, which is kind of a long-term project, right? Like it'll take me many weeks. And so I just decided to use the yarn held double so that it went by much faster for this garter stitch scarf. I was able to use a yarn that I didn't quite love to knit with, and to make something that I do enjoy quite a lot. Cotton is very easy to wear once you have the finished object, so sometimes it's not super enjoyable to knit with because it might be a little bit like dry on your hands and stiff, but then once you have the finished object, I always find that it's quite enjoyable to wear, so in this case it went well. The scarf turned out quite long, so I would not call it like a tiny scarf. I would call it like a regular sized scarf maybe. That's because I wanted to use all the yarn that I had. I didn't want any leftovers, so I just knitted up until I used half of my yarn, and that was the center point, and then I decreased towards the other tip and finished up the second half of the yarn. I could have made it a little bit shorter, but then I would have had extra leftover yarn that I didn't know what to make with, so I went for a longer scarf. Cool. See, you can use it in many ways. That's it. I don't think I have anything else to say about this other than I did not swatch. I swatched only for the very first sample that I made. For the second scarf I made and for this one as well, I did not swatch. I just started from a tip and see if I liked the fabric, how dense it was, and I think I did end up actually going up 1 needle size. So I frogged this little tiny tip that I had up until that time and start again with the bigger needle size. Like the beginning of the scarf was my swatch in a way. I feel like you can just go with the flow. It doesn't have to fit your body perfectly. It doesn't have to be of a certain length. So as long as you like the fabric that's coming out, then you're good to go. If it doesn't match the gauge that I wrote in the pattern, you'll still get a lovely scarf in the end. Grape break. Cool. Works in progress. Over the past couple of weeks, all my knitting time has gone into this work in progress. This is, I think, actually my first ever striped garment. I think so, yeah. First ever striped garment that I've ever made, and it's the Tombo Tee by Florence, of Handmade by Florence. It's a test knit. I'm not 100% sure if Tombo Tee is the final pattern name, but it is the working title. It is a top-down tee. I think the detail that it's the most striking is this shoulder detail here. You have a lovely kind of a shoulder construction here, and then you go into your usual raglan increases. So at the top, it's not super mindless. So actually it was quite interesting to work through and read the pattern, interpret the pattern. I screwed up twice. Once because I didn't read the pattern properly and I just kind of continued with what I was doing on the section before. And I think a couple of other people also had asked questions about that specific point of the pattern. So Florence already went in there and clarified. So the pattern is even more clear now. Although the reason of my mistake was that I was not paying attention as much. I feel for test knits, you do need to pay a little bit more attention. I was just using the pattern while doing other things, watching my daughter, and I kind of assumed that I knew what the construction was gonna be, and I didn't apparently, so that's fine. I ripped back a few rows. Yeah, and the other time that I had to rip back a little bit is because I had missed a couple of increases, and I just wanted to have the perfect stitch count for this test knit. I wanted to do the proper thing, especially after messing up at the beginning. I was like, I need to step up my test knitting game and be super accurate. So now, perfect stitch count, doing everything I'm expected to do. I'm using Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. This is the combination. I actually had the soft peach colorway at home even before Florence thought about this shirt. So like I've had this for a couple of years, maybe a year or so. And I had 4 bowls of these. The first one is still attached to the tee and I have 3 more. I am expecting to use another one for the striped tee, and then I'll have 2 that I don't know what to do with. I could make a camisole, or I could hold it double and make a summer scarf. However, why did I buy this yarn? I don't think this is my color. It must have happened that either this was one of the few colorways available in this yarn and I really wanted to make a tee. I was eyeing the Office Tee by the Knit Flitter, and I saw that pattern on Caroline's podcast from Caroline's Knits, and I was like, ooh, this is a lovely summer tee. Let me find some pure silk from Knitting for Olive to knit it with. And I think the soft peach might have been one of the only light colors available, and I wanted more of a kind of a spring summer color. I'm not sure. But I do not love this color. Does it look good on me? I don't know. So I figured that combining the soft peach, which I don't love, with like a cream color for stripes was a good trade-off, a good combo. And I think I do like the soft peach in this stripe pattern more than if it was by itself. As you can see, I still need to pick up for the collar. I'll make the collar in white. And I'll make the ribbing at the end of the sleeves and at the end of the body also in white. So I think that will look better close to my skin compared to having the peach for the ribbings. This is actually a recent acquisition, and I bought it to go with the peach. Before getting the white cream color, I tried to make the pure silk colorways that I already had work in some combination, but unfortunately none of these worked well for stripes in my personal opinion. So I actually tried this combination and I did start the test knit with this combination. However, the combo didn't work because the peach is quite warm and the powder, so this grayish color, is quite cool toned. So I think there was a little bit too much clashing of the undertones. I have no idea what I'm talking about. And the Dusty Artichoke, which is probably one of the most popular colorways, also I think it didn't work well. I'm happy to have this though to knit camisoles. I do like green, as you know. Powder, I'll use it for camisole. I don't think I have an issue. And the peach one is the one that I didn't want to use it by itself, so it's the one that was joined by an extra acquisition to make stripes. I do really like actually this cream colored. I think if you wanted to make striped tee, I think this would work well with any color. So with a warm contrast shade, I think it could work with any of these other colorways that I already owned. The yoke part was not super mindless, again, because you have increases and you're shaping the shoulder in this interesting way. But now that I'm just on the body, it just is stocking it in the round. The only thing I need to pay attention to is to change colors every X amount of rows. Other than that, it's just knitting in the round. Once I'm done with these two teeny tiny ongoing balls of yarn, I'll pick up for the collar and maybe finish the sleeves and then go back to the body to make it as long as I can, which is usually my preference. I don't love cropped tees or cropped anything or cropped sweaters, and so I'd like the body of the tee to be quite long and comfortable. Then I can tuck it into shorts or jeans. Actually, as I mentioned, I don't usually knit or wear stripes. However, I've seen lots of striped garments in the recent weeks, including beautiful versions of the Tolsta tee by the Crea Bea, and also a striped sweater from Kutovakika. I wanted to apply for that test knit, but it had like a very short amount of time for test knitting, like less than a month for a full sweater. So I was like, I'm not gonna do that to myself, but it looks beautiful. So yeah, I feel like maybe seeing more and more garments with stripes made me kind of be more comfortable with stripes. So I'm now gravitating towards stripes a little bit more. So I'm excited to see if I'll wear this in the end, and I'll see if I want to make more striped garments. The downside of pure silk is that it tangles. So instead of leaving the yarn in this form, what is this form? It's like a loosely wound up ball. I don't know, but like this type of ball. So I think if you knit from this directly, it tends to like do this. It tends to unravel and kind of maybe knot together. This time around, I tried to just ball it up, hand wound ball of yarn, and I'm trying to knit in from this. I think it's going a little bit better. However, since you have two strands attached at all times, it's inevitable that this will tangle a little bit. So every few rows, I need to kind of go and do this. So like, and detangle. I don't know why I'm making you look at this, but I couldn't stand this tangled mess. And this was the Tombo Tee test knit in progress, will be out in June. Something else I started since my last episode is a garter stitch blanket. I'm sorry if I'm boring. Hi, this is a very simple garter stitch blanket. The only thing I'm doing is unslipping the last stitch of each row purl-wise, just to make it slightly tidier without having the garter bumps at the edge. But other than that, it's just garter back and forth. I'm knitting this on very big needles, US 10 or 6mm needles. This is Cascade 220 Superwash. If you watched other episodes in the past, you might have seen this before. I've purchased this without paying too much attention about the fact that it was superwash. But then when I started actually knitting a cardigan with this, I actually didn't enjoy the feeling of the superwash yarn, and I knew that a finished cardigan was not gonna be super enjoyable to wear on my body, just because I like the feeling of non-superwash yarn a little bit better. And so since I love the color, I really wanted to use it anyway instead of donating it or selling it. And so I'm doing a very simple garter stitch blanket. It's always useful to have one around. Maybe not in the summertime, so maybe this will be used after the summer. I'm using this as my project I knit on while my daughter is falling asleep. I can do this in the dark with no problem. I can also knit while watching TV or talking to people or doing other things, because again, it's just knit, knit, knit every row. So if you have yarn that you don't know what to do with, you're not particularly excited about wearing the yarn that you have, blanket is perfect. I encourage you to do so. I still have a good amount of yarn. I'm halfway through, I would say. So it'll double the size, and I think it'll be like a reasonably long, let me demonstrate, a reasonably long kind of blanket that we can use on the sofa. I'm thinking also it could be like a good size for my daughter for her bed, because it's wide enough for a small child to cover her entire bed. I like the color, and that's why I bought it. I'm glad I'm using it. And 2 or 3 of the bows have your typical kind of curly looking feel to them, because I frogged them from the cardigan that I attempted to knit, and I actually did not wash the yarn before starting this blanket, because I don't care too much about how the tension looks while the blanket is in progress, and I know that washing and blocking will make it smooth enough for my standards. But if you do look at the blanket, the very first section is pretty even, and then you see kind of like stitches being a little bit messy. The uneven tension is because I was using crinkly yarn. I'm confident that washing this blanket and blocking it will make it look even enough for my likings. And also, since it's a blanket, it'll get like ruined a little bit anyway with use. We have a cat in the house, so I'll also kind of like scratch it probably very soon. So I'm not super concerned about the blanket looking perfectly. If I had to use the yarn for an actual garment, maybe I would have washed it before using it again, just to avoid any risk of the final tension to look a little bit off because of the crinkly yarn. I don't know if it's true. Probably not. Probably I would have used it anyway without washing it first. As I mentioned, lots of my knitting time has gone into the striped test knit. So not a lot of time has gone into making progress on the Field Day jacket by Ozetta. I've only done this much of the first sleeve since we last spoke. And since this is technically a jacket, so it's a very oversized garment, I can wear it actually on top of my card sweater. And it is a dropped shoulder construction. I actually don't have a lot more to go for the sleeves, and I'll do the other one and then I'll start knitting on the body as long as I can with the yarn that I have, because I do want a very kind of oversized long cardigan, like a jacket, which is what the pattern states. So I think I'm on track. Maybe I would have chosen a size down knowing how it would look on me. I'm not sure. So I'll finish it up and then we can decide together if it's a little bit too oversized. But I did just choose the size following the recommendation in the pattern. So with the amount of ease that the pattern recommended, I'm using Cascade 220 in the colorway straw that was sent to me by Erin from the Korea Knits podcast. I'm loving it. I definitely have enough to make the body as long as I want. Maybe I will not actually use the entire amount of yarn that I have, and I can use like an extra bowl to make part of a hat or maybe an entire hat, depending on how much I have left. I'm loving it. This is the first time that I use Cascade 220 non-superwash, and I would love to get my hands on more next winter season. And my last work in progress is again one that you've seen before, and it's a half and half wrap. I've not done a lot of progress. However, I wanted to show you that I got some fancy C-knit needles. C-knit has 2 different types of needles. One of them sounds like a mushroom. I will not attempt to pronounce what the 2 options were for me for the needles. I picked the natural colored ones. So the one that sounds like a mushroom. These are fixed circular needles, which I don't own any fixed circular needles. I don't think. I usually use interchangeable so that I can unscrew the tips and connect them to different sized cables. That's kind of my preference, so that I can have all the sizes available. I just wanted to try one single set of needles from this brand, just because I've heard about them quite a lot. And so I picked the needle size that I usually use for my half and half wrap, and I like that you can spin around the needles without the cable getting stuck. And I find this specific feature enjoyable, very enjoyable. However, I've noticed that this bottom part, it kind of gets stuck a little bit. Not stuck in the sense that it catches on your yarn, but just that it's quite wide compared to the rest of the cable. So maybe the transition is not seamless. And so it's a little bit more cumbersome to have it slide through your stitches compared to my Chaigu needles or Like needles that I typically use. I'll give it some more time. Probably I will finish the entire half and half wrap with these needles, and then I'll decide if I like them or not. If I don't like them, I can always pass them along to someone else. But I wanted to try them because they're quite popular. Also, they do look pretty cool. And since I mentioned the acquisition of the needles, we can finish up with a couple of extra acquisitions. If you want to skip this part, you're very welcome to. And I'll see you next time. But for the acquisitions, I have a couple of things. They will not go towards the same project, so I don't know why I'm holding them close by. So let's go for the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in copper. I've been eyeing this color for the longest time, and a couple of times I ordered from Knitting for Olive, it was unavailable, so it was sold out. And so this time, while I was ordering that famous cream for the striped tee, I also grabbed some of this copper color. I have 4 bowls, which is enough for me for a t-shirt. So I'll finish this up. I'll finish this up, and maybe if I enjoy the final shape, I could just make a non-striped version of this shirt. Or I can do my usual Cumulus tee by Petite Knit, or there's the Office tee by the Knit Flitter, or I think the Crea Bea is planning to release a fingering weight version of her Tolsta tee, and her Tolsta tee that has already come out is in a thicker yarn. I don't remember if it's DK or worsted, but she's planning to release a fingering weight version of that shirt, so maybe this could go towards it. But yeah, this will be more of my summer cast on, so we're talking in a month or 2. And the other yarn I picked up is a yarn that is completely unknown to me. I've not seen it recommended anywhere, but I've just seen it available on the online store where I got the Knitting for Olive yarn, and this is the one. It's called Samai. Probably not the right pronunciation. The brand is Amano, and it's 60% Pima cotton and 40% bamboo, made in Peru. And it's a DK weight yarn in this lovely cream color. I've got 3 hanks. The other one has been misplaced, but this will be enough for a Tolsta tee in its current version. So the version with the DK worsted weight yarn, and maybe I have enough to do a long sleeve version. I don't think so. So it could be just maybe like a short sleeves Tolsta tee. Yeah, so this feels like a very luxury summer yarn. It feels soft, even though there's a lot of cotton. The bamboo kind of makes it more enjoyable to touch and hopefully to knit. The other colors were a lot brighter than the cream one that I picked. Also, is it the same color that I'm wearing? More or less. But the other colors that are available are stunning as well. I just didn't know if I wanted a full garment with them. But the orange is so pretty. So if I do enjoy making something with it, I might get some more in a more fun color. And since I have it nearby in this yarn mess, I also wanted to mention that I have a future plan that I'd like to attempt, and I have leftover Purl Soho linen quill from my half and half wrap, and unfortunately the half and half wrap is not perfect. I know, why am I saying this? I love it. However, it doesn't have that lovely option of just knitting one color until it runs out. You actually cast on a bunch of stitches at the beginning and then you work through one color, and it's possible that when you finished working that color you have leftover, which is what happened to me. And it's quite a lot of leftover. I would say it's like 75% of a full hank. In total, the quantity that I have left is 1.5 hanks of Purl Soho linen quill that didn't go in my half and half wrap. So I was thinking what to do with this, and I found a lovely free pattern, which is the April scarf by Hedgehog Fibers. And maybe because I'm inspired by my own summer scarves, this one looked cool as well. And it has a triangular shape, very simple to follow, I'm assuming. And I'm gonna see if striping these two colors throughout the scarf looks good. So instead of a one colored scarf, it would be like a scarf with vertical stripes. I don't know if it's fun or if it's a bad idea. I have this yarn which I really like, and also it costs a lot of money. So I want to use it and make something lovely with it. So I'm thinking striping it together could work. I've also seen another shawl recently, which I'll put on the screen. It has sections. A section is striped and another section is one color. That looks cool too. I would have to add another bowl in another color, so since I will have enough leftover of this blue yarn from the half and half wrap, maybe this could be the third color. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm in a shawl accessory mood. I don't know, is it true though? I'm in the mood of casting on things. I think that's what's going on. Cool. Reminder to comment below if you want a little set of your own Sannes Garnline. Reminder that this little scarf pattern is available if you want to download it. Reminder that I love you and I wish you a lovely rest of your day, week. I appreciate you keeping me company. I appreciate you in general, and I'll see you next time.